Hello, hi, welcome everyone.
Hi, Dr. Alicia. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
We have one more minute before the webinar officially starts. Just give a bit of time for the participants to come in. All right, it's 10 o'clock sharp. Hi again and good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I am Dr. Alicia Ho from the Department of Allied Health Sciences, Faculty of Science, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah. So I believe that there are some of you joining us from FB Live, and we also have among us around 30 something participants at the moment. Yeah. So I will be the MC and moderator for today's webinar entitled The Aging Brain, Nutrition for Brain Health and Aging, Things You Need to Know. So the Mind Your Brain series is jointly organized by the Malaysian Mental Literacy Movement with the M. Kandaya Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, Faculty of Science, and also Center for Research on Non-Communicable Diseases, CRNCD, University Tunku Abdul Rahman. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, and I will bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. To all Utah students and staff joining us on the Zoom platform, make sure to sign in your attendance in the link posted also in the chat box. So of course, before we begin, I will need to introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. Chang Swee Kiat, or we also call him as Dr. Sean. He is currently an assistant professor at the Department of Allied Health Sciences, Faculty of Science, University Tunku Abdul Rahman. Having graduated with a PhD in nutrition from University Putra Malaysia, he started his career as an academician in 2015. His research area is in nutritional sciences, focusing on nutraceuticals and functional foods, and specializing in the bioactive components and food ingredients in relation to human health and nutrition. He has published and presented his scientific findings in various international journals, including noteworthy high-impact journals. He serves on the editorial boards of the Food Research International and Frontiers in Nutrition. He is also an independent reviewer for a number of international food and nutrition-related journals. As a life member of the Nutrition Society of Malaysia, he has received various awards from the society and also from the International Union of Nutritional Sciences. Dr. Sean believes that continuous efforts in nutrition and health promotion are crucial in improving the nutritional status and well-being of mankind. So now, without further delay, let me pass the time over to Dr. Sean. Over to you, Dr. Sean.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to all the participants. Let me share my screen now. I'm wondering, can you see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Sean.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Alicia. Thank you to all the participants for allocating your time to join this webinar. This is the 7th webinar on this on the Mind Your Brain series, which entitled The Aging Brain, Nutrition for Brain Health and Aging, Things We Need to Know. So I'm Dr. Chang, as introduced. Thank you to Dr. Alicia for the kind introduction just now. So as the title indicates, nutrition for brain health and aging, there are many things that we need to know as we start to age. Even for me myself, at the age of 36 now, I have started, aging started now, and that's why we need to take good care of this issue, because if we don't take good care of our normal aging, where from the perspective of nutrition, then it will affect our brain health in long term. So for the webinar today, this is the content for my presentation. So I will start with the definition of aging, and followed by body and brain. I will introduce something about body and brain changes in aging and effects. I will talk about the effects of certain specific diets, and also certain specific some specific nutrients on brain health, and what are the examples of foods where we can choose for brain health. And finally, I will go for some take-home messages. So before I start about the definition of aging, let me share with you some of the aging population worldwide. So this is the statistics for the world population. It was 7.9 billion in year 2021, as we can see from this figure. But by this year, it has become 8.1 billion from the latest statistics I searched on WHO website yesterday. And the elderly population comprises about 10%. As we compare which continent around the world has the most elderly population, we can see is Europe. And there are many countries with highest elderly populations. So the only Asian countries with the highest elderly population in the world is Japan, which comprises about 28.8%, because the Japanese, they have a very high lifespan, where they can live very long. And now the figure on the right shows the Malaysian statistics by Malaysian census released in 2020, where the elderly population is about 6.8% as compared to the world 9.3% in year. This was the statistics for in 2020. And we can see the highest elderly population was recorded in Perak, which was 8.9%, and as compared to 28.0% in Japan. So that's why elderly population has become increased in most of the countries around the world. And next, I would like to start with what's the definition of aging. Aging is not so scary, because it's a continual process of change. I think it does not begin at a particular point in time, because aging starts at different points of time and by affecting different functions. So for different people, aging starts at different point of time, because it depends on our environmental factor, especially our genes, our environment, our food intake. So for example, for athletes, aging may begin in 20s. And that's why for athletes, usually they will retire once they reach about age 30 plus. And as for mental activities, aging usually significantly noticed when we reach 50s, although there is decline from 30s onward. Yeah. So I'm 36 now. I think, aging starts with me now. So these are some of the age-related changes. So as we age, these are some of the changes that we will notice. So our height, our muscle mass and body water will decrease, and that accompanies with increased body fat, as we can see here. Increased body fat, and because of lower metabolism, so our body fat burning will become lower, and we need longer time for us to react as well. So since our brain has been affected, so that's why we will see some decline in certain memory functions, and also decline in, let's say, sexual activity and in women menopause. So that's why we will also observe some functional decline in vision, audition, and olfaction. And finally, we will notice some decline in kidney, pulmonary, and immune functions. So that accompanies with declines in exercise performance and multiple endocrine changes. So these are some of the age-related changes we may observe as age starts, as aging starts. So this is the main focus of our talk today. So I will now talk about aging brain and the nervous system. Whenever we talk about brain, we cannot run away with our nervous system because the brain connects with our nervous system. And these are some of the changes that occurs to our brain and nervous system as we age. So the first, our brain weight decreases. And the second, cerebral blood flow to the brain reduce, and hence memory will be affected. And the central nervous system neurotransmitters will be affected as well. And finally, our vibratory sense affected. So these are the consequences of all these changes as shown on the left of this slide, we will observe that our mood will be affected, and IQ scores will be decreased, and we might be forgetful. Yeah, I start to be forgetful nowadays, and increased postural instability, and there might be some falls and accidents and altered gait as well, and of course delirium. Delirium is confusion, is what we call confusion sometimes. So next, hopefully I'm not too fast. So why aging? Why aging starts with all these brain changes in our brain and also nervous system? Because of the term free radicals. One of the main reasons our body starts to become the health of our body starts to become deteriorate is because of the term free radicals. So these free radicals are found in our environment because of, let's say, air pollution, smoking when somebody smokes around us, or radiation. Radiation occurs because of our handphone usage, and also UV light because our country we have ample of sunshine in our country, and inflammation. So I will talk about what are the causes of inflammation in the next subsequent slides. And so all these reasons all these processes generates free radicals that cause DNA damage to our body. And that's why when our body has lots of free radicals, this affects our brain as well. So these free radicals will cause some inflammation in the nervous system, and that's the term called neuroinflammation. So as we live, we have some exposure to different pathogens, let's say viruses, bacteria, fungi in our environment. So that's why all these pathogens, or what we call the microorganisms, will affect our brain memory cells. So that's why we have reduced numbers of naive cells, and that's why it affects our brain tissue. So this neuroinflammation caused by excessive amounts of free radicals in our body will be affected, and this accumulates, and it causes decrease in neurogenesis, and hence neurodegeneration, and hence finally cognitive impairment. So that affects our brain, and that's why aging starts. So these are some of the, as we can link to some of my sharing about age-related changes that affects the brain and also our health, our body in overall. These are some of the syndromes or some of the signs where we can notice some of the diseases occurs when advanced aging is noticed. So these are what we call geriatric syndromes. And geriatric is the study of the elderly people. So these are the diseases, for example, let's say dementia and delirium, Alzheimer's disease, falls, and urinary incontinence, pressure, ulcers, and also functional cognitive decline, where we commonly notice among the elderly people for the advanced aging symptoms. And we will notice this very clearly when all this starts to happen. And as we can see from the figure on the right, these are some of the pathological changes in the aging brain. So when Alzheimer's, before Alzheimer's going to start, our brain size will start to shrink or become a smaller size. And as we can see, as we reach the severe Alzheimer's stage, the brain size will become much smaller, or the brain weight. So that's why it affects our cognitive decline, and it affects our brain function. So after introducing about some of the age-related changes to our brain and nervous system, now I would like to talk about how we can protect our brain from the overall health perspective. In fact, as a nutritionist and healthcare advocate, we always emphasize on good overall health to help to maintain good brain health. So these are some of the tips shared by some of the brain health experts. So of course, first will be healthy eating, which will be the focus of today's webinar. And followed by regular exercise. We need to keep our brain active where I will share with some of the tips later after talking about healthy eating, social connections, and getting enough sleep. So let's start with how to eat healthily. So healthy eating healthy eating contributes to good nutrition. And good nutrition is an important part of leading a healthy lifestyle for today, tomorrow, and also for the future. So these are some of the healthy eating tips where I will also summarize this in my last few slides as the take-home messages. So the first would be eat or drink less sugar, salt, and also some of the processed foods. And also we need to consume more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains as major part of our diet. Choose lean meats, fish, or even poultry, and we need to control portion sizes. And of course, we need to drink adequate fluids. So let me start with how we can eat healthily by focusing on certain food components. So this figure shows the important components of our diet comprises of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and their important functions for our brain. So as we can see, let me start with carbohydrates first. Carbohydrates provides energy to our body. And since glucose is the most important energy source for the brain, so it is critical for our higher order processing and also for our brain health. So we can get carbohydrates from grains, dairy food products, fruits and vegetables. And second is fat components. Fats are important because they are the energy reserve. They are important to make hormones, cell membrane, and also for our brain components of our cell membrane, especially for all the body cells in the body, of all our body cells, and especially important for brain cells. So we can obtain fats from oils, nuts and seeds, meat, fish, and dairy products. And the third main component is proteins. Proteins are important for tissue structure, metabolic transport, and hormone systems, and of course, production of neural cells and tissues and neurotransmitters in our brain. So we can get proteins from legumes, soy products, nuts, whole grains or seeds, animal sources, and vegetables. So all these are the major components of our diet and of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And of course, other than that, we have vitamins and minerals and other important phytochemicals, which I will touch later. So all these diet components affects our perception, learning, memory, and language speaking systems, all related to our brain functions and systems. So that shows how an important diet or healthy eating is important for brain health and aging. So let me start with how we can eat healthily by introducing the Malaysian food pyramid by proposed and recommended by Malaysian Ministry of Health Malaysia. This is the latest guideline by Ministry of Health Malaysia in 2020. So as we can see in this food guide pyramid, the bottom part we need to eat the most, while the tip of the pyramid is the food groups where we need to reduce or limit them. So the most we have to eat more fruits and vegetables, more than 3 servings or for vegetables and 2 servings of fruits. So how we can estimate about the serving size? As we can see, this is a good figure to estimate serving size. You see, 1 slice of papaya is equivalent to 1 serving of fruit, and 1 slice of watermelon is equivalent to 1 serving of fruit. And as for vegetables, 1 cup of vegetables is equivalent to 1 serving. And the second level is, of course, the rice and cereals and whole grains, cereal-based products and tubers, which are equivalent to some of the breads and also noodles, biscuits, where we like. So, for example, 2 scoops of rice is equivalent to 1 serving, and 2 slices of bread is equivalent to 1 serving. And as we can see, 6 pieces of crackers is equivalent to 1 serving. And of course, we need to drink at least 8 glasses of plain water per day. So 1 glass is about 250 ml. And the third layer is fish, milk, and milk products, and fish, poultry, eggs, and meat, and legumes. For example, what are legumes? Are the red bean, green bean, chickpea, black beans. So 1 serving of, let's say, 1 chicken drumstick, as shown here, is equivalent to 1 serving. And 1 glass of milk is equivalent to 1 serving. So we need to limit the intake of fats, oils, sugars, and salt, as indicated in this food guide pyramid. So next, I would like to talk about how we can, when we talk about food guide pyramid, Malaysia is it's not that easy for ordinary, for the general population, as compared to us, the nutritionists or the healthcare experts. We know how to estimate our serving size for all these food groups effectively. So that's why Malaysian Ministry of Health introduced this Malaysian Healthy Plate for us to achieve good nutrition and balance, and of course, optimal diet every day. So this Malaysian Healthy Plate introduces the concept of quarter, half. As we can see in this figure, quarter, we need to, on our plate, for, let's say, for our lunch or dinner, it's better for us to make, it is recommended for us to make our half of our plate comprises of fruits and vegetables, which is high in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And also fish, poultry, and meat and legumes, which is quarter of the plate. And rice, noodle, bread, cereal products, and tubers, quarter of the plate. So as compared, our Malaysian Ministry of Health has recommended the reduction of rice intake nowadays, started in the year 2016. So as this plate, normally some people will take half their plate comprises of rice. So so we can follow this recommendation now for a healthier diet. So this is one of the easier portion size estimation for, let's say, proteins and carbohydrates and also fats. So as we can see, how we can estimate the carbohydrate intake, let's say for rice. So this a clenched fist, as shown here, equals to about 1 cup. That's for us to estimate about the rice intake. And the front of our closed fist is equivalent to about half a cup. Let's say this enables us to estimate the fat intake. And our palm is equivalent to 1 portion of meat or fish. And our fingertip, it is around 1 teaspoon. And from the tip of our thumb is about 1 tablespoon. I hope this figure helps for all of us to estimate our portion size intake easily. So let me talk about how we can eat. Let me introduce some of the well-studied diet from evidence, scientific evidence introduced by health experts by the World Health Organization and also from numerous nutrition societies around the world. So I'm not sure whether you have heard about this term called the MIND diet, M-I-N-D. So this MIND diet is a scientifically proven approach to enhance brain health and help to prevent Alzheimer's disease and dementia, where this MIND diet is not so popular in Asian countries like Malaysia, because as we can see in this figure, as we can see in this figure, most of these components are not, food components are not found in Malaysian diet, but we can do our part to make our diet healthier to prepare for, as we gear for brain health. And this MIND diet is also proven to lose weight and to prevent cognitive decline. So let me introduce some of the food, how we can achieve MIND diet. In fact, this MIND diet, I'm sure some of you have heard about Mediterranean diet, which is popular in Mediterranean countries such as Italy, Spain, and Greece, as combined with DASH diet. DASH diet is what we call DASH diet represents dietary approaches to stop hypertension. This DASH diet is a diet where introduced by healthcare professionals to reduce the rate of hypertension. So this Mediterranean diet has been combined with the DASH diet and has been shown to be very effective to prevent new brain delay, neurodegenerative delay and brain deterioration in European countries, especially in the Mediterranean countries. So the components of MIND diet, as we can see, 3 portions of whole grains and 1 dark green salad and 1 vegetable a day, comprises of berries at least twice a week, and at least 30 grams of nuts per day. So nuts is not so common in our Malaysian diet, and beans, or as we can see, beans or legumes at least every other day, fish at least once a week. I believe most of us eat fish at least once a week, poultry as well for at least twice a week. And I believe at least about 140 ml of red wine every day. And let's say, and they also recommend pastries and sweets less than 5 times a day. And cheese, fried food, and fast food, or what we call processed foods, no more than once a week. So these are the components of how we can achieve what we call the MIND diet. This MIND diet has been very effective and practiced by other Western countries as well. So I hope that every participant here will have some new perspective on this. The first diet where I introduced here are the Mind diet for our brain health and aging, as compared to the original Mediterranean diet, which is commonly known. And next, why Mind diet is important? It can be very effective for brain health and aging because they are very high in omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acid is important for our brain health, especially omega-3. So for example, the two examples of omega-3 fatty acids are EPA and DHA, where these EPA and DHA are important for various functions, as we can see in this figure on the right. Omega-3 fatty acids are important for, let's say, the orange is the health effect where DHA is most beneficial. So DHA is the most beneficial for brain development, eye health, and cognitive function. And EPA is most beneficial for reducing triglycerides and blood lipid profile and mood boosting. And the green circle shows the combination of EPA and DHA, where these two are most beneficial for heart health, joint health, and immune response. So as a summary, the omega-3 fatty acids comprises of EPA and DHA. They are good for normal growth and development, especially they build cell membranes in the brain. So how we can obtain omega-3 fatty acids, for example, DHA and EPA. So these are some of the examples of foods where we can achieve our omega-3 fatty acids intake, especially DHA and EPA. So as we can see here, the highest source of omega-3 fatty acids from plant sources are flaxseed oil, chia seed oil, perilla seed oil, and fish liver oil and walnut oil. And these are from plant-based. And for another good source of plant-based food would be also soybean meal and soybean tofu. And for animal-based source of omega-3 fatty acids, the rich sources are deep sea fishes, let's say mackerel, salmons, and one of our Malaysian fish, what is called jelawat, and omega-3 supplements, capsules, and tuna fish, and sardines, and crabs. And we can also consume omega-3 fatty acids from eggs, especially omega-rich eggs. And as compared to regular eggs, they don't have that much or high amounts of omega-3. And some of the meats, chicken, beef, and pork, they don't have that much of omega-3 fatty acids as well. So Malaysian RNI stands for recommended nutrient intake is minimum about 670 mg per day. So this figure shows how we can achieve the intake of omega-3 fatty acids by choosing some of the rich food sources enriched with omega-3 fatty acids. So next, I would like to talk. So this figure shows the summary of the top 10 foods highest in omega-3 fatty acids, summarized in the figure form. As we can see, mostly the high omega-3 fatty acids food sources are mostly animal sources and also some plant sources, especially walnuts and chia seeds and flax seeds, and some of the oils and deep sea fishes. And also, shellfish, especially oysters. And let me introduce to some of the latest new products in our in our supermarket shelves, where many of the cooking oil has been, many of our cooking oil has been enriched or fortified with omega-3 fatty acids. As we can see in this figure, we should, whenever we purchase our food, we should read the nutrition information panel as shown in all food products. So this is how we can achieve for this plant-based canola and sunflower oil. Usually, it contains omega-3 fatty acids and DHA about 7.4 mg in 15 ml, which is 1 serving of fats. So this cooking oil is good for us to ensure we have enough omega-3 fatty acids intake. And there are most of the vegetable oils where we can see in our Malaysian supermarkets are all blended. They contain both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So this is the blended oil comprises of sunflower seed and also canola seed. So these are the recommendation by most of the countries for omega-3 fatty acids per day, regardless of our life stage. Our country, as I have shown in my previous slide, Malaysian recommended 670 mg of omega-3 fatty acids per day for all the health benefits. So these are the recommended intakes of EPA and DHA around the top economies of the world. As we can see, some other countries, they don't have the recommendation for the recommended intakes of EPA and DHA yet. So some countries, they recommend quite low for the omega-3 fatty acids intake. So as a summary, before I move to the next component, I would like to share with you, many studies have shown that they have found people who live in countries that eat fish regularly, they have less incidence of depression. And also, people who eat fish regularly are 20% less likely than their peers to have depression. So scientific evidences does show the benefits of fish intake, especially deep sea fishes, which comprises of omega-3 fatty acids. So after talking about omega-3 fatty acids, let's talk about some of the plant sources. So there are some herbs and spices that have been shown to boost our brain power. So these are the spices where there is a term called spicing up the golden years, which is for our aging brain and health. So these are some of the examples of herbs and spices: cinnamon, sage, nutmeg, basil, green tea, oregano, and turmeric. So these spices are beneficial for our brain health because they have anti-inflammatory properties because of the food plant components which acts as antioxidants, where they have been shown to reduce the inflammation. So this improves memory and also brain function, so which is good for our brain health. And one of the most studied components of herbs and spices is curcumin, where we can obtain curcumin from curry, from ginger and also curry powder, which is quite commonly and easily found in our Malaysian diet if we consume curry. So this curcumin has been shown to be very good for brain health because of their brain stimulating effect, because of their antioxidant properties. They increase neuroplasticity properties and immunostimulatory properties, and they reduce the amyloid plaque, which is beneficial to prevent Alzheimer's disease and also dementia. And next, I would like to talk to you about, about vegetarian diets. As we can see in this study done, which was conducted in Taiwan, where there are two studies conducted in Taiwan, where they studied about the effects of vegetarian diets and its linkage with the risk of dementia. So this study was conducted among 5,700 participants in Taiwan, where they found that vegetarians were after they have followed for started in 2005 until the end of 2014. These participants were followed for 9 years, and the results show that vegetarians diet or people who practice vegetarianism were associated with reduced risk of dementia, regardless of aging, regardless of gender, different age, and also their educational level. And the next study, also conducted in Taiwan. These two studies were shown in my presentation because they are the latest findings released by Taiwanese researchers, where this study was conducted in 12,000 participants, also followed since 2005 until 2016, where they found that Taiwanese, as a results and conclusions, they found that Taiwanese vegetarians also had a lower risk of developing subsequent depressive disorders as compared with non-vegetarians. So that's why diet high in plant-based foods are good for reducing, good for our brain health. And next, I would like to show you some of the statistics shown by our Malaysian Ministry of Health, conducted once in every 5 years, which was a nationwide study called National Health and Morbidity Survey, NHMS, conducted among 200,000 participants, where they found that 95% of Malaysian adults do not eat the recommended daily amount of fruits and vegetables, where this is quite serious for our healthy nutrition. But we are still doing slightly better in terms of our fluid intake. 3 in 4 people drink enough plain water every day. And as I have explained just now from the food guide pyramid and also the Malaysian Healthy Plate, eating enough fruits and vegetables, which is high in fiber, vitamins and minerals, are important for our brain health, for overall health. And for food and brain connection, diet pattern rich in vegetables and fruits, like for example, Mediterranean diet, Mayan diet, okay, and also comprises of whole grains and healthy fats, decreases inflammation, oxidative stress, and hippocampal volume, which link to improved overall brain and mental well-being. Whereas on the contrary, Western diet pattern, often high in fat, sugar, refined carbohydrates, increases inflammation, oxidative stress, and hippocampal volume, linked to reduced brain and mental health well-being. Okay, so after talking about vegetarian diet, I need to talk about this vitamin B12, because this vitamin B12 has an important function of keeping the healthy function of our brains and nervous system. And B12 is commonly deficient in elderly people, as we can see on this on the figure shown on the right-hand side, and also for vegetarians, and it is commonly found noticed among people who practice vegetarians and strict vegans. Because this vitamin B12 are mostly found in animal-based sources. And that's why people who practice vegetarians and strict vegans, they are prone to have reduced they have higher risk of getting vitamin B12 deficiency. So these are the vitamin B12 rich food sources, especially seafood, lambs, liver, organ meats, and some of the milk and milk products, they have some vitamin B12. And so for vitamin B12 rich foods, ideal for vegetarians, vegetarians can go for, let's say, seaweed, konbo seaweed, shiitake mushrooms, yogurt, and fortified cereals. Cereals and yogurt are commonly fortified with vitamin B12 nowadays, and also cheese. And the next, one of the main component from our diet for brain health is what we call choline. And choline is important for brain cells to produce acetylcholine, which is the key neurotransmitter for mental focus and learning. So if our diet is deficient in choline, it results in poor concentration, memory loss, and mood changes. And these are some of the foods rich in choline. For example, also seafoods, salmons and tilapia, soy protein powder, and skim milk. And of course, one of the most important food source is fried eggs, and eggs, beef liver, and some of the nuts and vegetables here, broccoli, cauliflower, and also peanuts. And next, I would like to talk about the importance of obesity. We need to maintain a healthy diet by reducing the risk of obesity or overweight, because if our body weight increases, if we are overweight or obese, if our body has lots of fat tissues and fat cells, it increases inflammation and of course oxidative stress. So high inflammation and oxidative stress, as I have introduced in my previous slide just now, it affects the brain, so it affects the cognitive function and also motor deficits of our body. So obesity increases the risk for cardiovascular morbidity and mortality as well. And so this is the statistics of our Malaysian people, where Malaysia is the most overweight country in Southeast Asia. For me, it's not in Southeast Asia, but in Asia. Most of the 2019 National Health and Morbidity Survey found that 30.4% of our Malaysians are overweight and 19.7% are obese. So as we can see on the figure on the right, BMI stands for body mass index. Overweight, our BMI, if we are considered overweight if our BMI is more than 25, while we are considered obese if our BMI is more than 30. And even our children also aged to 5 to 15 to 17 were also overweight and obese, many of them. So this is not a good, this is not so good for us, so we need to do more. And there are some good news for obese and overweight people by losing weight. So this study was conducted among 5,550 participants in Western countries, where they found that voluntary weight loss, they have in obese and overweight people of at least 1 kilogram was associated with a significant improvement in attention and memory and executive function and language ability. So it improves our performance across various cognitive domains. So these will be beneficial for our brain health and aging as we lose weight of at least 1 kilogram for overweight and obese people. So how we can control our body weight or lose weight is by healthy eating and also exercise. So these are some of the benefits of exercise on normal and also aging health. So numerous animal studies shown positive effects on brain structure and function, affecting neurons, reducing inflammation, blood vessels, and Alzheimer's pathology. While clinical studies conducted in human shows growing support for beneficial effects on memory and thinking in healthy older adults and in those with a mild memory impairment. So there was a PACE study, Piedmont Triad Aging Cognition Exercise study conducted in European countries, where they studied whether aerobic exercise restore health to the brain in adults who are at high risk for developing Alzheimer's dementia. This exercise improves vascular function, benefits lipid profile, attenuates effects of stress, and improves mood, and improves insulin sensitivity and reduces risk of diabetes, which is good for brain health and resilience. Okay, so which has favorable effects on Alzheimer's pathology. These are some of the results shown in brain region where showing cell loss in the earlier stages of Alzheimer's disease, where aerobic exercise affects our brain by growing the areas of brain where the areas of brain volume grow in aerobic exercise group, as shown in this figure. So, and next, aerobic exercise also increase blood flows in regions compromised by aging and Alzheimer's disease by increasing blood flow as shown in the red area of this brain. So our statistics from National Health and Mobility Survey Malaysia shows that we are not so physically active among Malaysians. And physically inactive is the fourth leading risk factor for global mortality. So we need to do more exercise, especially for adults and also for elderly people. But it's not easy for elderly people aged 75 years and above to exercise because of reduced movement. So there are some factors that we consider brain health risks or the potential threats to brain health. So this includes accidents, alcohol, smoking, some medicines, and certain health conditions other than the food components where I have presented just now. So alcohol is, of course, the main risk factor for our brain. It affects the way our brain functions by impairing communication among brain cells, causing drowsiness, dizziness, and have long-term impacts on balance, coordination, and memory and emotion. So this alcohol intake the example of alcohol mentioned here is, of course, beer, as compared to red wine. Red wine is beneficial because it contains high levels of phytochemicals, which reduces inflammation by increasing the antioxidant levels reducing inflammation in our body. And alcohol consumption also affects the occurrence of diabetes and heart disease. And of course, the next is smoking. And I would like to emphasize that smoking affects our brain, heart, and lungs. So quitting smoking at any age has many health benefits. So I would like to summarize some of the main food factors that I have presented just now: the turmeric or fish oil, and also walnuts, because walnuts example, and also purple grapes and olive oil. So I didn't mention about olive oil just now because olive oil is part of the Mediterranean diet, which is also important for protecting memory, and of course, brain health. And let's go back to walnuts. As we can see, the shape of walnut it looks similar to our brain. That's why and walnut contains high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for our brain health. And of course, we have another component which is good for brain health is coffee and tea. So as we can see in this figure, there are many brain coffee and brain tea available in the market nowadays. And some of the good examples of coffee, when we are taking coffee, please be reminded that we need to make sure the sugar content is not that high. And some of the examples of tea good for our brain health is, of course, green tea. As we can see, the Japanese, they have high lifespan. So that's why one of the reasons for Japanese healthy diet is because of the presence of green tea in their diet. And before I end, I would like to talk about this issue of high food costs. High food costs, because many of the food components that I introduced just now are all I think the price are also the prices of all the food examples good for brain health are not cheap. And rising in price inflation happens very seriously nowadays. So, and 3 billion people can't afford a healthy diet, as shown in the latest statistics nowadays because of the rising food prices. So I think we are all the same across the globe. So we need to manage our diet very well by spending wisely. And I believe that most of us, we have our way of expenses so that we can ensure good health and good nutrition at the same time manage our expenses. So as the summary for take-home messages, good nutrition is important for brain health, and diet high in plants and fish are good, especially for example coffee and tea. So we need to reduce the intake of high sugar foods, drinks and processed foods, where smoking, alcohol consumption affects brain health negatively. And some of the mental exercise or digital stimulation can also good for brain health. Restful sleep and social ties promotes brain health and longevity. So that's all for my presentation today. Thank you so much for your listening. I would like to welcome any comments or questions from all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chung. It's a very very insightful talk that you have given here. And I see that there are quite a number of questions from the participants. So we will take the time now for the Q&A session. As a reminder to the participants, if you have any questions for Dr. Chung, make sure to type them out in the chat box. So let me see here. We have a question from Daniel Han. Are supplements important? So this question here, I believe, is rather have to do with those supplements that are available in the market, like ginkgo biloba. Like, are these supplements important for our brain health? Dr. Chung, would you like to answer?
Yes. Supplements are also important other than food, because some of us think that it's easier for us to obtain, let's say, omega-3 fatty acids or even choline, or even some of the other supplements for brain health. So we can take supplements, especially omega-3 fatty acids, since it's not easy to meet the intake of omega-3 fatty acids by taking food alone. So we can eat. Since the cost of living has increased, I would like to share that we don't have to take omega-3, let's say DHA and EPA supplements every day. We can take DHA and EPA supplements once in every 2 or 3 days, because this is good enough since our body has storage of omega-3 fatty acids. so we don't have to take it every day. This is one of the way we can save food costs. And most of the supplements, a good thumb for supplements for us, a golden rule for supplements intake is 1 tablet per day. So let's say for ginkgo biloba is also recommended for 1 tablet per day. But if we don't have to take it 1 tablet per day, we can take it once in every 2 to 3 days. I hope this answered the question.
Okay. So it doesn't mean that we have to follow directly from the instructions given. So it is okay to take every 2 to 3 days for all these supplements, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now there are some participants who are requesting for the notes. So I'm not sure for that, maybe the organizers can discuss with you, Dr. Chang, on whether you will be giving the notes to the participants. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a question from Pek Yen Cho. Does eating higher protein diet to prevent loss of muscle mass cause heart problem? And her second question is, does intermittent fasting with ketosis good to prevent Alzheimer's disease or dementia?
Yeah, it's a good question. So eating high protein diet, we need to control, as we can see in this slide, Malaysian healthy plate. Protein is only quarter portion of the plate. So we need to control the intake of protein as well. So we also need to control we need to increase the intake of healthy fats, let's say from deep sea foods and fatty fish, and also from avocado. These are healthy fats. But some of the unhealthy fats are from, let's say, deep fried foods and fast foods. So I hope this does answer the question. And intermittent fasting with ketosis, intermittent fasting is good to lose weight. So this is good for brain health and also to prevent Alzheimer's disease and dementia. But we cannot practice intermittent fasting at all times, or what we call every day. So I would recommend practicing intermittent fasting 2 to 3 days a week in order for our overall losing weight and also for brain health.
Okay.
I hope this answered the question. Because
Alright.
intermittent fasting requires strict discipline as well. Because we can only eat, some people have strict intermittent fasting by eating by fasting for 16 hours. Let's say similar like the Muslims who fast during the fasting month. Yeah, so this is good, but we need some strong perseverance and determination to adhere to intermittent fasting.
Okay. All right. We seem to have quite a number of questions here. Okay, next one would be from Shamala. Okay, does any specific diet have a long-term effect on our brains? Diets like vegetarian, vegan, or keto, which is better?
Yeah, as I have mentioned in the slide just now, the Mind diet and also comprises of Mediterranean and Dutch dietary pattern. But some of these diets, some of these food components, let's say berries and also nuts, are not so commonly found in Malaysian diet. We don't eat them very regularly, and these foods are also not cheap. So we really need to manage our expenses well. So vegetarian diet, vegan or keto, which one is better? I would say keto is not that good because ketogenic diet has at least about 70% of fats, which is low in fruits and vegetables. So vegetarian diet, we need to be cautious about the shortage of omega-3 fatty acids, deficient in omega-3 fatty acids and also vitamin B12, similar with strict vegan diets. Because strict vegan diets, they don't eat eggs and also milk and milk products such as cheese and milk.
So that would answer also the question from Lim GY, who asks, if vegetarian diets are good for brain health, why are we recommended to eat more fish, etc. as well? So I believe this question is answered in your previous answer that you mentioned that for strict vegans and vegetarians, because of their diet, they would lack certain nutrients, right? So
Yes, yeah.
what would be the replacement then if they are strict vegans or vegetarians, since I believe they cannot take fish? So the replacements will be?
The replacements for strict vegans would be, let's say, for vitamin B12, let's say, let me see. The replacement for strict vegans are, of course, let's say for mushrooms and milk products and fortified cereals for vitamin B12. Yeah, fortified cereals for strict vegans. But for vegetarians, we need to consume more milk and yogurt. And some vegetarians do consume eggs and tofu, yeah, and also seaweeds. So these are some of the alternatives for us if we want to practice vegetarianism. But as we can see, we also need to maintain balanced diet, yeah, as recommended by the Malaysian Healthy Plate, as shown in this slide. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. So now let's see. Yeah. Two more questions left before we end. Alcohol affects the brain, but red wine is recommended to be drank on a daily basis. Seems to be contradicting to each other. How to reconcile? This is by
yeah. Thank you for the question. Yeah. Alcohol in my slide simply means beer. Yeah, beer does not have any beneficial effects for our body. But red wine is different with beer because even though the alcohol percentage is higher, but because of the color of red wine, it contains lots of phytochemicals, especially resveratrol, the component called resveratrol, which is important to reduce, acts as antioxidants to reduce inflammation in our body, and also good for our brain health. Where red wine is also one of the important components of the Mediterranean diet, so which is quite similar with the Mind diet where I have introduced to all of you just now. So alcohol, yeah, there are different examples of alcohol. So red wine is recommended, but how much of red wine we need to consume on everyday basis? One glass is good enough, but it is also not so cheap. I would say that.
Yeah. Yes, red wine is not cheap. So yes, alcohol here would be red wine and not beer. Yeah. Okay, now on to the last question from Phoebe Tian. As the cost of living is increasing, are canned foods such as canned tuna or canned mackerel good alternatives to replace the fresh ones?
Yes. Canned tuna and canned mackerel available on our supermarkets. They have high sources of omega-3 fatty acids, so that we can obtain enough omega-3 fatty acids.
All right.
So these are one of the cheap food sources for us to consume omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for our brain health. Yeah. And before I end, there are two questions already asked before yesterday. So they asked, when should one start taking nutritions for the brain and what are they? So I have introduced some of the food components and the diets important for brain health. And when should we start? We should start even the moment we born. So as we can see, when we mother's breast milk mother's breast milk contains high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for our brain health and cognitive development. And many of the milk formula also fortified with omega-3 fatty acids. So that's why we need to start the moment we were born. And we also need to, since I believe most of us are adults, so we also need to start to consume all these food components to ensure brain health. And the second question is, what are the do's and don'ts to install a healthy brain functionality? I believe I have covered just now. Alcohol, especially beer and smoking. And of course, another thing would be, let's say, another component is the brain. Yeah, as we can see in this slide, mental exercise or digital stimulation, the examples are, let's say, playing games, mobile games, or using handphones. It stimulates our brain. Yeah, I believe even both of my parents, they use their mobile phone and they keep logging on Facebook every day. So I think this is a good mental exercise and digital stimulation as well, and restful sleep, because the elderly population tend not to sleep very well at night. And social ties, by having good friends in a group, is also good for healthy aging. I hope that I have answered all the questions just now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sean. And thank you to all the participants for your questions. Yeah, Sean, is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I can cover this last question. Is fruit enzyme good for brain health? Yeah, it's good. Fruit enzymes we made at home. Homemade fruit enzymes are good. Yeah, but we need to make sure fruit enzymes they helps digestion and also good for our digestive health.